I'm Nicola Barrett, Chief Corporate Learning Officer at Emory Executive Education at Goizueta Business School, and wonderful to have you be part of this Business Over Breakfast webinar. Today, I was a little surprised by the topic. We're going to discuss a leadership characteristic that we don't often, or at least I don't often hear being focused on. We hear about agility, we hear about curiosity, we hear about enterprise mindset. But today we're going to talk about a different characteristic, a different competency, one called gravitas. And this is something that really, the more you think about it, plays a crucial role in effective leadership. Serious, intelligent, commanding respect, charismatic, influencer. Those are just a few words you might hear associated with the word gravitas. It's a somewhat intangible quality that sets exceptional leaders apart. Today, to discuss this, we're joined by Allison Gilmore, the Director of PhD Programs at Goizueta Business School, who's going to help us demystify what role gravitas plays in leadership, and then consider our own strengths, skills, and talents and how they relate to building gravitas as one of our superpowers. Allison is a facilitator, trainer, keynote speaker in the field of spontaneous and intuitive leadership. She utilizes a variety of business facilitation and improvisational techniques to impact individual, team, and organizational performance. And she's a wonderful addition to our executive education teaching team. She builds on her 20 plus years of professional experience and expertly weaves the tools of improvisation with business management skills to teach the principles of leadership, communication, emotional intelligence, and collaboration through intuitive and spontaneous thinking. And I am told, well, actually, I know this. I'm not just told. I know this. Allison is can I call you the flower lady?
Yeah, sure.
Her office is full of flowers. Her home is full of flowers. Apparently, she raids the clearance sections of the large big box home stores for the underappreciated plants in that section. And she's a lot of fun to be with. As normal with Business Over Breakfast, Allison's going to talk for about 35 minutes and share her perspectives. Please put your questions and in the Q&A section, and we'll get to them either during or just after Allison gives her presentation. As always, I'm just going to give a little bit of a plug for some of the Emory Executive Education short courses. Allison's actually teaching in our upcoming Executive Communication and Leadership Presence program. So if you enjoy what you're hearing today and want to learn more with Allison and want to really hone your skills in terms of executive communications and presence, please consider that course. We also have our Leveraging AI for Business course, which is so critically important these days for everybody, including old dogs like me. And then also we have our MBA level electives that you can join. And the one that I think might be of interest to this audience is the Sales and Sales Management elective. And so that's an MBA level course. You're learning alongside evening and executive MBAs. It is 4 credit. So if you want to either do a deeper dive into things like sales and sales management, or you want to think about how you might, if you might consider doing an MBA later on, that might be something for you to think about. So I think the teams put all of those links into the chat so you know where to go and get more information. So Allison, over to you, and I'm going to take notes so that I can improve my gravitas.
Yay, thank you so much, Nicola. So thrilled to be here this morning and so thrilled to talk about this mysterious word, this mysterious concept of gravitas. As I work with your team, with the exec ed team on developing the executive communication and leadership presence curriculum that we will have in April, the word gravitas just kept popping up out of all the resources that I find to help build the curriculum. Decided, why not dig into it, just that one word just a little bit deeper, to figure out, ascertain what it really means and how it can be applied more than anything. So what we're going to do today, we're going to walk through some of gravitas, some of the elements of gravitas. And I invite you now, if you don't already have a pen and paper handy, to find a piece of paper, find a pen, because we're going to actually do a little today. This session is really about you, and how you can adapt these skills in order to build your own gravitas. So we're going to learn and develop our leadership presence today, focusing at one element. Uh-oh. Okay, sorry about that. So our mission today is we're going to work on enhancing your own personal and professional toolkit as we demystify gravitas. And as you heard Nicholas say, I approach most of my teachings around the concept or the founding concepts of the world of improvisation. So we'll touch briefly on those skills towards the end. In the workshop, live workshop, we do practice these skills in person, using the improv skills that you will review later. So let's just warm up for a minute. Maybe you've just on your first cup of coffee. Maybe you've already taken your kids to school and you're back at home and you're exhausted. Maybe you're on your way to work. Whatever place you might be in at this moment in time, we're going to see if we can't focus our energy and bring us all together to a launching place for learning. So using the chat, I would love it if we think for a moment. We hear all the time, what advice would I give my 10-year-old self? But I want us to flip it. And I want you to think about your 10-year-old self. And you know, there's research that shows that sometimes we're at our most confident level at that age, that 10 to 12 age range. So let's flip it. What advice would your 10-year-old self, give to you now? So we're accustomed to thinking about, what advice would I give to my child version of me? What would that child version of you give you as advice right now? What superpower does your 10-year-old self remember about you that maybe you've forgotten? So I'm going to give you like a minute. And in that minute's time, you can either populate that in the chat, you can write it down for yourself. But what would that 10-year-old tell you about your life right now that may need their advice? Okay, I'm going to be quiet for just a second.
Allison, the chat is going wild with things that people would tell themselves, including very big money.
Yeah, my 10-year-old self would, I would have some questions for myself. That's wonderful. Keep them coming. I'm not opening the chat myself. Folks that are on the call who are in support of the session, because I'm too afraid of the technology to move from this screen to that screen. But I'm seeing like 75 chats at the moment. So that's fantastic.
Oh, they're fabulous. Play hard, work hard. Every relationship matters. Dream bigger. Smile really does make things better. Talk less. Be patient. Be curious. Laugh.
So for those of you who may have suggested, whose 10-year-old self may have told them to smile or laugh more, in your own space, in your personal space where you are right now, I'm going to ask you just to plant a big old fake smile on your face. Just smile. Just that easy. Just smile. And guess what happens? When you force yourself to smile, and most of the times we don't have to force ourselves, but the point being made is that there are nerve endings in our face, a message to our brain telling us that we're happy. So if my dad was in sales for his entire career, and I would watch him pick the phone up with a smile, even if he was dealing with a customer or a client who wasn't that happy. And he told me that communicates through the phone line. So remember that too. It's just a little sidebar tip. Answering the phone with a smile on your face makes the person on the other end of the phone think you're happy to hear from them, even if you might not be. Okay, we're going to move on now from that warm up. I hope you're all feeling a little, you've you're thinking about things, to think about that person. So as we think about gravitas as an element of leadership presence, is there someone, either a public figure, someone you personally know, someone you admire, someone in the public space or even in the private space, who you feel possesses the qualities and the traits of a real leader, and with that sort of sense of gravitas? And we would invite you again to chat those people. Like, who are those people? It could be someone you, a personal friend. It could be a mentor. It could be a public, again, it could be a public figure. But think about that person and then populate the chat with who you think possesses those types of qualities. See, the chat's increasing again. Fantastic. Nicola, are there any notable people being populated in the chat in terms of having gravitas? Anybody we might all know?
Pete English, Steve Jobs, Colin Powell, Oprah, Neil Armstrong, Bill Gates, Oprah again, Elon Musk, Tyler Perry, Jimmy Etheridge, formerly Accenture CEO, somebody's grandmother, one of the Tuskegee Airmen, Barack Obama,
Oh, wow.
Michelle Obama.
So when we teach this workshop live and in person, we get Mrs. Obama a lot, actually.
George Washington, Modi, Harriet.
Wow.
There's a huge range.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So now the next step I'm going to ask you to take is, as you think about that person that you named, what are 2 to 3 qualities, skills, personalities that you think they possess in order to have gravitas or have leadership presence? 1 or 2 traits. We just want to know, as you think about that person, what is it that inspired you to name that person? What it is about themselves. And I'll be quiet and let you sort of populate the chat with those suggestions and ideas.
You want me to read some of these out?
Sure.
So fearless, persistence. Oh, they're going fast. Authentic storytelling, confidence, quick on your feet, introspection, empathetic, fair, honest, relaxed speaking, competitiveness, confidence, humbleness, visionary, good communicator, grit, authenticity, listening in the moment, dedication, learned, relatable, calmness, diverse experience, sincere.
Wow. It looks like someone named President Carter. I think I saw.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah, yeah.
So fast.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, risk-taking, courageous, sincerity, lean into humanity of others.
Wow. These are wonderful. So those of you participating, feel free to scroll this chat yourself and see what other participants in the session today are adding or suggesting. Because what I want you to do now, this is when the journaling time comes in, as you scroll through and you see these attributes that have been assigned to the folks that we think have gravitas, which of those skills, traits, characteristics do you need to pick up for yourself? So we're sort of doing a little do analysis and having you think about a pickup wall. What do I need to pick up? What are these things am I lacking? What are these things do I need to develop further for myself? What are these things do I need to learn from others? And to either put them in the chat, as some of you are doing, or journal those for yourself as a carry with when you leave the session. And I'm going to be quiet and let you journal. Okay, these are great. Fantastic. I am able to follow along with the chat now, Nicola. So these are fantastic.
They are, and I think it's wonderful to see people sharing like this. It makes me feel like we've created a safe space for people in business over breakfast that people feel okay to share. So
Yeah, and
out
you have
there.
some sense of anonymity because you can't maybe see each other, but your names are there. But I think there's so much learning that we do from each other, that we can learn from each other. And typically we don't always put the actual person's name out, but we talked yesterday with the team and thought that might be a good idea because it might help inspire the other people on the call to think about folks in their lives or folks that they stop using the buzzwords of the moment. I know. Can we what is that? Can we stop tilting and redirect? Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, speak without edge when I'm perturbed and having thick skin. Wow. Okay. I got you, Angeline and Ramesh. All right. So if we feel like we've captured all we need to capture in that moment, we're going to move forward now and sort of begin that demystifying process of the word gravitas, or the concept of gravitas. Seriousness. So Larry says when you Google gravitas, seriousness keeps popping up. Comment on this. I think that maybe seriousness is being used in exchange or instead of confidence. I don't think a leader always has to exude seriousness in order to be read as confident. So maybe you can send me some of those links that you see, but that would be the comment I would have, is that confidence can come off as too serious or vice versa. Okay, so let's move forward. So what is gravitas? It's living life with self-assurance. So again, this session is about you, and it's about your skills and your self-belief and your self-assurance. It's projecting credibility, and that could be seen as seriousness. You're right, Larry. It can be seen as assertiveness, as projecting assertiveness, which is sometimes misled to think of as a dirty word. Assertiveness is not aggressive, right? Assertiveness is being strong in your offers of information, and your confidence in your ability to convey a clear message. It's knowing what you're best at and what your superpowers are and how you use those to build that gravitas. So there's certain elements of gravitas we'll discuss briefly. So communication, it requires a masterful use of nonverbal and concise speaking. So when we think about communication, oftentimes we're only thinking about what we're saying. But honestly, our nonverbals communicate like a million times more faster. I exaggerate sometime, a million, much more quickly, let's just say, than your words do. And we can tailor a message, we can tailor our conversation on social awareness and self-awareness and being aware of the person with whom we're engaging, their nonverbals, and what are they telling us, and is it okay to move forward in this conversation. It's what you say, when you say it, how you say it, and to whom you say it. And that masterful use of nonverbal also helps you with one other component, which is when to say it. Okay. So if we get really good at reading other folks' nonverbals, our timing becomes essential, and we know when's the right time to approach, when to say it. Substance, what you know, and your ability to communicate that in a really powerful way. In the world of improvisation, we have something we use on stage called offers. And it's how you enter a scene or begin a scene with a strong piece of information that communicates quickly and precisely, and it helps the scene get started with content and information. So as we think about the way we communicate with other people, are we coming in with strong offers? Also, with the what you know part, I always like to share this piece of wisdom that I learned from a professor 30 years ago, 35 years, we'll stop with the counting, um, which is know that you know what you know. Know that you know what you know. That brings you confidence in knowledge, and no one can take that from you. Appearance, be intentional impression you want to make. You need to look like a leader. And you'll hear that adage, I'm sure, over the years of look, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. And look to people more senior for those tips and keys. Receptivity and listening. So in the world of improvisation, we practice what we call active listening. And in our workshop, we really focus on that as a drill and a skill. And then strengthening your own self-awareness, knowing what makes you tick, knowing who pushes your buttons, knowing how to respond in the moment when things happen that you don't anticipate. So there, we found in the study we started doing about gravitas, there's three sort of pillars to gravitas: courage, compassion, and connection. And we're going to break those down now. So courage, courageous leadership. So the core concepts around courage to lead are self-belief, believing in ourselves, self-confidence, self-assurance, self-worth, versus self-doubt, which many of us walk around with those negative thoughts in our heads all the time, eroding at our self-belief as we doubt ourselves. So I encourage you to learn what your superpowers are. What are your strengths? What are those characteristics and traits that you bring to the table that are the basis of your own self-belief? And then understanding how to apply those superpowers as a leader. In doing so, you should begin to build your own confidence language about how you destroy the negative self-talk and actually start having more positive self-talk by reminding yourself of your superpowers. So let's take a moment for a quick exercise, applied exercise, and we're going to journal again this time. And I'm going to ask you first to answer the question for yourself: what are you good at? And it doesn't have to be work related. You know, you heard Nicola talk about me and the flowers. I actually have one bed out front that my neighbors all know is my rescue bed, because those are all the plants that I buy and just hope they're going to survive. So I'm not good at that. I mean, I'm good at that. How can I apply that in my role as a leader? What do you love to do? Again, it doesn't have to be in business. What is it you just love to do? Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's playing tennis. Maybe it's pickleball. I don't know. What is it that you love to do? And then what are you passionate about? I'll give you a second to consider those. You can chat them if you'd like, or you can journal for yourself. Now, if you've considered those things, how can you apply those to your role as a leader? I was at a session yesterday at the school that exec had, and it was interesting because the facilitator, who is renowned and an incredible person, asked questions, but he didn't really allow answers. He gave me questions just to ponder and consider. So if you're in that spot where you just want to think about these things, that's fine now. But these are good questions to ask yourself regularly. And how do you apply them as a leader? And then what would you consider to be your superpower? Based on what you're good at, what you love, what you're passionate about, is there things from that you can pull out that you consider to be your superpowers?
Allison, I've got two things for you to answer here. One is discuss, so we're talking about sort of positive aspects of gravitas. Somebody asks, can we also think about the negative connotations of gravitas?
Okay.
And then Lauren asked, can you repeat or expand upon the saying you mentioned about dressing for the job you want and not the job you have?
Okay. So first, in terms of negative gravitas, I think when we become too boastful, or maybe ego gets in the way. That might be a negative aspect of gravitas. We want to develop these skills to be strong, confident leaders, but sometimes our ego will get in the way and we push ourselves too far. Gravitas should really speak for itself. It shouldn't be something that we have to, advertise. It should be those skills that are sort of innate or that we developed that are more about confidence and less about ego. In terms of dressing for the job you have, dressing for the job you want instead of dressing for the job you have, that's not applicable to everybody. I'll confess. Um, However, if you're in a certain level and you want to advance to the next level, is there a difference in the way you should approach your appearance? Maybe you already are dressing for that job you want. So maybe this is not even applicable to you because you're already assuming that sort of, not, I don't want to say costume, that uniform, but you're assuming that physical appearance part of aspirational leadership and moving to the next place that you want to be. Hope that's helpful.
And I think that's probably even perhaps more confusing in a time when so many of us work from home a lot of the time or all of the time. Is there are other symbols perhaps that we should be thinking about in terms of how do we symbolize or signal we're ready for that next role.
Yeah, it's part of it is that always be willing to learn, always be open to new experiences, always be engaged in feedback and receptive to feedback. And we're going to talk about that actually in just a second. Okay, and I don't have any pants. No, I'm just kidding. During the height of COVID, when we all learned how to use these tools, we had a professor at the business school who her research intersects information systems and marketing. And she shared with us on a call that, April or May, June of 2020, the sale of blouses and jackets and shirts escalated, but no one was buying skirts or pants. So if that tells you anything about, but you can have presence online. It's definitely something that we cover in the workshop as well. Okay, so now let's talk about that second pillar of gravitas, which is compassion. But you can sort of interchangeable with empathy, if you will. So compassion is defined as a consciousness of another person's distress and your desire to alleviate that. So compassion is really empathy. So having that consciousness of someone distress, and then action, what action you might take in that moment. The things that are so important about compassionate leadership is it causes your employees to thrive because they feel safe. It feeds people's need to be understood. It boosts employee morale. It reduces turnover. So research suggests that employees would rather work for a company that pays less if the company is more focused on their own well-being. And lastly, it helps reduce, okay. Lastly, it helps reduce that sense of, I'm sorry, I'll have technical difficulty. It improves job satisfaction. And people are much more likely to be invested in the success of the organization as a whole if they feel valued and feel they have a compassionate leader. So how do we build that compassion? Well, first we should practice it for ourselves. So often we think of just about other people, but honestly, we need to give ourselves compassion as well. Use any setbacks to learn. So if you get feedback, and you need to process that, how can you process that in a way that you can learn? Be open and curious. So approach people with curiosity. Observe nonverbal signals. So people will give you those nonverbals, and it's really important to be able to read those. Acknowledge the other person's feelings. Again, take feedback well, and then step into someone else's shoes. How do you have compassion by seeing what it is that they're dealing with and helping in that moment? Lastly, we're going to talk about connection. So courage and compassion are about ourselves. Connection is about others. So connection has often been sorted sort of by demographics, but we have no control over our own demography. I'm sorry. We have zero control over that. So historically, it's been one way that we established connection was through demography. But when we begin to see people for who they really are, we can celebrate the strengths and the skills they bring to the equation, to the table, beyond their own demography. And I love this particular phrase. It's seeing people not in our own image of that person, but in their image of themselves. So how do we see people for who they truly are and make those connections, even if we're not don't share the same demography? So how do we connect? What are those how-tos that we need to use? First, which is a founding tenet of improvisation, is being present and living in the moment, actually showing up for your own life and being patient. I mean, being present to what things are occurring around you. Practice listening, and we will work in our workshop. We do again work on active listening. So I'll just give you a tidbit for that. Think about listening to understand as opposed to listening to respond. So frequently we think we're good listeners, but I would challenge you to think of a time right now when someone didn't listen, which caused a huge mistake or misstep or whatever it might have been, simply because someone didn't listen. Greet people by name. I love a name tag. So do your friends a favor if you're in a session, have a name tag or a nameplate. My husband teases me all the time because I know the name of pretty much every employee at my local Publix. So, but the reason being is because I connect with those people and they help me and I help them. This one is controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't take notes at meetings. Or you can take notes, but don't lose eye contact. Don't miss what might be happening around the table where the power shifts and changes might be occurring because you're buried your head down into a notebook, right? So do as I do. I'll just give this advice. I've gotten pretty good at writing without having to look at the page. So you can still take notes, but you're paying attention to what's happening in the room and maintaining eye contact. And then get rid of unhealthy comparisons. Well, I'm not as good as so and so, or they do that better than I do, or this person had an opportunity I didn't have, or we spend a lot of time caring about what other people think and comparing ourselves to other people when what we really need to be focusing on, in my opinion, is our own self-worth, our own self-belief, our own self-confidence, because that brings us to that world of gravitas. So gravitas is a choice. Believe that you can possess it, and in a good way. Develop your self-confident mindset, those 3 C's: your courage, your compassion, and your connections to other people, and believe in yourself. Again, know that you know what you know. And as you determine today what you're good at, what you're passionate about, recall those. Help those to believe in yourselves that you can go even further. You can achieve your goals and you can attain fulfillment. And using the tools of improvisation, being present, listening, accepting other people's ideas without judgment, and saying yes are the tools that can get you to this point of gravitas. So really quickly, you've heard some of these elements, some of these concepts of gravitas. What do you need to let go of? So feel free to use the chat here again. And in self-reflection, what is holding you back? What do you need to let go of? Share it on the chat if you're willing to share. Put it in your journal, whatever it might be. But let's do a little analysis on what it is you need to let go of. And then the last thing I'm going to offer to you is an exercise, is I really want to think you to think about what your highlight reel is. So if someone was to do a quick highlight reel of your life, what would that be? What would it look like? There's some ways you can frame it. I'd ask you right now to share your name. You don't have to do this. This is just in your journal, but your title, your successes, and the qualities that you possess that brought that success to you in your career or life. Give that some thought, seriously. What's a recent success? It could have been more than recent, it could have been years back. But what qualities did you bring? Did you bring the things that you're good at? Did you bring the things that you love to do? Did you bring the things that you're passionate about? And did they bring that success by utilizing those skills? As we conclude my part of this session, I'm just going to ask you to believe these things out loud. So if you've written these things down for yourself, those successes, those qualities that you brought about, I want you to now make a statement to yourself and share it out into the world by saying it out loud. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of my own. My name is Allison. I'm the director of the PhD program here at Goizueta. Recent successes that I've attained have been taking our percentage of student population for underrepresented minorities was 4% when I started this program. I've gotten it to 14%, which means I still have work to do, but I've gotten it from 4 to 14, and I'm super proud of that. What qualities did I bring about to establish that success? I put feet to pavement, right? And I started seeking all the different ways I could reach out to folks that would be demographed as underrepresented minorities. And I'm super proud of that work. And I've just said it out loud and put it into the universe. So on the account of 3, I'll direct you here. I want you in your private space or in your car, or wherever you happen to be. I want you to say that out loud into the universe and give that power to your qualities and to your successes. I'll give you time to do that now. Okay, great. So very quickly, I just wanted to give a little plug for the workshop that'll be happening in April. And these are some of the improv guidelines that we'll be reviewing and actually doing active on your feet exercises around. The listen actively component, and we all think we're good at it, but we need practice. Again, listening to understand, not to respond. Deferring judgment, not saying no, not questioning, not blocking, not changing the subject, not ignoring, but instead accepting each other's realities. And that can be in words, communication, or movement or action, to accept those realities with what we refer to as a yes and mentality. And for any of you that are out there who may have taken improv, seen improv, or maybe even perform improv, you all know, and we'll share with the rest of the folks on the call, that it is the founding tenet of improvisational thought practiced around the globe by both of us who perform improv and those of us, and those of us who facilitate and teach applied improv, which is what this session will be all about. Thank you so much for your attention and for participating. I'll turn it back over now to our exec ed team.
Thanks, Allison. I'm not sure I've seen the chat go quite so wild as it did today. And congratulations on what you've done with the PhD program. I mean, that really is an amazing feat and wonderful to see and hear about your results and your efforts there paying off. Got some questions in here in the Q&A. Back to appearance, around looking like a leader. The question is, how do you mirror leaders when they don't look like you? Do you suggest image consultants to help elevate your look? It might just might not be an image consultant too. It might be if they are a different gender, a different race, a different type of personality.
So I'll give you a quick tip. Some of the work that I've done and reading that I've done around, thank you, Brian. I just saw that. Thank you, Angeline. There's a book out there called Gravitas by a woman named Lisa Sun. And Lisa used to be a consultant at McKinsey. And the way she got into this business of really diving into the research of gravitas, and her book goes into all the different superpowers. I didn't have the time to kind of delve into that for this particular session. But one advice that she gives it so often, and she's speaking primarily to women, so excuse me for that, but she said that so often we want to look at the catalog, look at the ad, look at the mannequin in the store, and think that's what I should be wearing. When honestly, it's about what outfits, how your appearance gives you confidence. What is right for Rachel? What outfit is right for Jen? What outfit is right for Tammy or Mike or Robert? Might be completely different than what you may see as what you want to attain, because you see it advertised, you see it all around. So she does a lot of confidence coaching with women on taking them into dressing rooms and just trying on clothes until something that you put on makes you feel good. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel confident. So I'm glad that these questions are being asked, because it will help in our session that we're doing in April to know that these are some questions that may come up, so we'll be prepared for them. But that's what I would suggest, is what makes you feel confident. It doesn't always have to look up to a leader, but like all those people that we listed at the beginning of the session that we thought possess gravitas and presence, take a look at how they present themselves. If you've named that person and you know who it is that you would like to emulate, try that.
Mhm. Thanks, Allison. Another
Yeah.
question, I think it's Chessie, asks, autism is known to affect your ability to be compassionate. How would you advise an aspiring leader to build on this, considering it is pathological?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear the first part.
Autism is
Yeah.
to affect your ability to be compassionate. So how do you advise an aspiring leader to build on this, considering the pathology?
So neurodivergency is, we actually talked about this as a team earlier, and it's a new field at discovering and exploring. I know there is a center that we have just opened at Emory past fall, that's a center for students who are neurodivergent. And I think all of us who are in education and all of us who are in training and facilitation and in leadership need to start studying and digging more deeply into how can we ensure that the learnings and the teachings we're trying to share are being understood, I guess is the best word to say. Folks who may be on the, or people who don't pick up on visual cues. So how do we, oh, thank you, Jill. How do we find ways in those pathways towards making sure we connect with everybody and that we have compassion for everybody, even if we're not sure where that person may be coming from? I hope that's helpful. I'm not a neurologist, unfortunately, missed that, or a psychologist, but from the readings and the research that I have read, there's work to be done there. And I've not done that work yet. I'll just confess. But it's something I definitely will focus on.
Thanks, Allison.
Oh,
Gail asks, so back on the appearance, I think. Let me just get this. It's in the chat and it's going fast. COVID and working from home changed people's ideas about office attire. To this, there are differences between what the generations think to be office attire. And I often hear, what difference does it make what I wear? what difference does what I wear make in how well I lead and perform? Any thoughts on that?
It's for that show, The Medium. It starred Arquette as the woman who had medium powers. And her husband, I was watching an episode the other night. Her husband took a new job, and he's very, dressed very professional, Silicon Valley, not Silicon Valley, like corporate. And he goes to Silicon Valley, and he finds that the CEO of the company wears shorts, bike shorts, and a ball cap every day. And he learns that he was actually not hired to generate any new information. The CEO boss, the guy with the bike shorts, creates all content and everything for the company. He just has suits around him, so it looks like he didn't want him to contribute anything, just to be there, to be sort of like a face of the company. So I think you're right. COVID has changed quite a bit of things. I have actually consulted and worked with leaders who are having a hard time trying to enforce some sort of not dress code. I don't want to, we don't want to tell people how to dress, but some sort of sense of decorum. Like, and I think in particular for this person, they had hired someone straight out of undergrad. And this person just insisted on wearing shorts to work every day. And she finally had to sit them down and said, you're no longer student facing, now you're client facing, and our clients don't wear shorts. So I think there's something to be said for dressing for the occasion has always been a thing, right? And I Charleston, so farm school, right? Etiquette spoon fed to me as a child, and my mom always said you can never overdress, right, for an occasion. But I think the occasion typically dictates. I would say check the culture of the organization that within which you work. Has a shift occurred? Is there a shift happening? Or are you standing out because you're the only person who wears a tie? Might be, but I think the culture is definitely helping inform us now on what is expected of us from a oh, thank you, Martine. I'm sorry, I got distracted. It's definitely dictating how we present ourselves out into the world.
Thank you. Chima asks, can you speak about cultural context and impact on perception of the audience of one's gravitas? The cultural context and the impact on perception of the audience.
Oh.
I'm thinking that might be more, well, it might include different cultures, right? Different countries, different expectations, depending on where you are and what type of group you're with.
I mean, that intersection does exist. And I was speaking to a colleague yesterday who says, when I go home to my country, I'm viewed as being Americanized. And when I'm in America, I'm viewed as being an outsider. Right. And so balancing that cultural of who you are, again, we want to be true to self. And if the way we present ourselves is true to our cultural identity, then that helps you have confidence. And so as a leader, how do we embrace that intersection, as you mentioned, of where these things meet each other in terms of how are we confident in the way we present ourselves, even if it's out of maybe context with culture we find ourselves in. I've had friends like the next right today. I've had students walk up to me and go, "Is that a prayer? Oh, there's prayer beads." I'm like, then they broke the necklace down to me and explained what it all meant. So I was walking around culturally appropriating, I guess, with wearing this necklace, which I don't know where it came from. But then people that I knew from that culture were able to tell me what the necklace means. And now I wear it, not daily, but I wear it quite frequently. Again, it's all about your team and your organization and what's comfortable for you and what's comfortable for your team, and what brings them power and what brings them strength and what brings them those skill sets that you need regardless of the cultural context.
I think too, one of the things, so not having grown up in the US, I grew up in Australia. And even though we speak English, use of words is I still trip up. And I think one of the points, it's not just how you dress and how you look, but maybe too what you say and how you say it, the choice of words, and being really, as a leader, being really attentive to both what you're hearing, the words you're hearing, but also the words you're saying. Might be a sort of a critical point. And having learned that from experience, I still trip up, but hopefully not bad.
My question for you then is, do you put things in the boot of your car in the car park and you take the lift to the car park?
Yeah. In my head, I do.
Yeah.
There are things that I translate. But I think too, even things like sayings, things that
yes,
that I'm used to, and I don't, it's just ingrained that my audience may not understand, or it may actually take offense to, because the context is different. And I did. Adelaide said vocabulary is so important. Yeah, it is.
So y'all heard I run a PhD program, and I have 48 students currently, and they're from China, Korea, India, Turkey, Russia, Bulgaria, Brazil, Chile, Colombia. That's enough, I think, to get the point. But I find myself speaking in Southern colloquialisms. So growing up in Charleston, I grew up with the generations of enslaved people that were brought from West Africa through Charleston. And so I have so many superstitions and so many slogans and sayings and that people have probably never heard of. And I'll see the expression on someone from Russia's face, or I'll see someone's face, and I'll go, "Oh, you didn't get what I just said." I actually thought about putting together an Allison glossary and hanging it on the door of my office. So when I say things like, well, that's going to be here before you know it, I don't get the scratching of the head like, what the heck are you talking about? Something's going to be here before you know it. So clear communication and making sure that, like you said, the things that we say, we either translate or find ways to explain them if we're dealing with people who may not be from our same culture. Another cultural thing that I've noticed have been taught is that when I talk about listening, a lot of times I'll say that when women talk to each other, we nod our heads, right? And the two women talking, that means nothing more than acknowledging that you're talking. There may be women on this webinar right now who are nodding their heads along with me. In American culture, men read that as agreement. Okay? Whereas women don't read it as anything but just you're talking. I'm just going to nod with you all day, but I'm not agreeing to anything. However, in other cultures, a head nod can be something completely different.
Yeah. Allison, we've got time for one last question, and that's going to be from Dan.
Okay.
Can you address how merit and achievement play a foundational role in creating confidence? And looking the role as one thing, having the substance to successfully fill the role is quite another. So addressing how merit and achievement play a foundational role in creating confidence.
Well, I kind of reverse engineer that a little bit when I talk in our workshop about sometimes merit. It's the difference between merit and success can be gravitas. So you might find someone who's promoted to a position who doesn't seem to have the credentials required for that position, and they reach the success, but maybe it was because they already possessed gravitas, they already possessed confidence. I shared the story about myself. I have a bachelor's degree in theater from the College of Charleston, or the College of Knowledge. And I did graduate work at the seminary here at at Emory, but I'm running a PhD program in the top 25 business school. How did I get there? Right? So projecting credibility, as we talked about gravitas being open and curious, listening, all those things we will we'll learn in the improv section really helps you build for yourself and for your team a culture of trust. And I've had these opportunities that have come to me primarily because people trusted me. I don't say one thing and do something else, right? I am who I am. And so can those merit and success bring you to gravitas? Certainly. But it's almost like they need to go hand in hand, like one feeds the other.
I'm on mute. Thank you, Allison. I am going to hand this over to Tammy, somebody who embodies all of those characteristics, and have her close us out for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicola. And thank you, Allison. A lot of great information that was shared today. For those of you who didn't see in the chat, Pam Tipton on our team put together a word cloud of your inputs on what Gravitas is. So please take a look at that if you did not see that in the chat. And so we are very excited to have you continue to join us on future Business Over Breakfast. So the next one this month will take place on March the 21st, how multicultural marketing is essential to drive future growth. And then the first Business Over Breakfast for the month of April will be how to talk when machine is listening, corporate disclosure in the age of AI. So we've had a lot of faculty talk about AI. So this will be a continuation of that type of subject. And to close out, we definitely want to share our upcoming short courses. And as Allison and Nicola mentioned, we have a course coming up, which Allison is highlighted and featured in, Executive Communication and Leadership Presence. So Allison does teach a module that will have you up on your feet, laughing, talking, but actually implementing a lot of the things that she talked about today so that you can put those into practice. Is taking place on April the 23rd and 24th. Leveraging AI for business is very key for Emory, and we are very excited to offer this program. It's a 2-day course that's teaching you the fundamentals of AI. So if you're interested in that, it's taking place on April the 30th and May 1st. And then we have our MBA level course. This is accelerated course on sales and sales management. And again, if you're interested in getting your feet wet in an MBA course, if you're sitting with executive MBA or evening MBA students, this is something that you should really consider. If you have any questions or would like to receive more information, our email address is here. You can contact Heather Default, my coworker, or myself for more information. And again, thank you for taking time out of your day, as we do appreciate every first and third Thursday. And we wish you a early and happy St. Patrick's Day. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.